Hey, beautiful mama. Can I ask you something real quick? Do you ever feel like no matter how much you do for everyone else, you're still not where you want to be in your own life? Maybe it's your confidence, your finances, or just feeling stuck in the same old loop, like something invisible is holding you back. Well, I created something just for you. It's a free 90-second quiz called What's Secretly Holding You Back from Confidence and Financial Freedom as a Mom. And it helps you uncover your unique archetype, the hidden pattern that's been quietly shaping how you show up. You'll find out if you're the self nurturer, the quiet power, the visionary dreamer, or the determined achiever. And I'll send you a personalized podcast playlist to help you rise into your most radiant, confident self. You can take it right now at marydibblecoaching.com/quiz. That's marydibblecoaching.com/quiz. It's quick, fun, and honestly, it might just change how you see yourself, mama. Welcome to Radiant Mom Rising. Get ready to be inspired, empowered, and uplifted. I'm your host, Mary Dibble, and in each episode, we dive into amazing stories, insights, and conversations that help moms like you chase your dreams and embrace your worth. Let's rise and shine together. Hey, Radiant Mamas. Welcome back to Radiant Mom Rising. Today's episode is going to hit home for so many of you who've experienced childbirth, whether recently or years ago, and still feel like something just isn't quite right in your body. I had the incredible honor of talking with Lynn Schulte, a pelvic health physical therapist and the founder of the Institute of Birth Healing. With over 30 years of experience, Lynn has transformed the lives of countless women through her holistic approach to postpartum healing. She discovered something fascinating after giving birth. A mom's pelvic bones often don't naturally return to their original position, and that can cause lingering pain, discomfort, or even emotional trauma. But the good news, Lynn's groundbreaking methods can help restore alignment, relieve pain quickly, and help you reconnect with your body in ways you might not have thought possible. This episode is a must listen if you've ever experienced postpartum discomfort, struggled with intimacy, or just want to feel at home in your body again. Let's dive in. Lynn, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. How are you doing?
I'm awesome, Mary. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful. I love any opportunity I can get to share what I know to help moms, during pregnancy and after birth. So thank you for having me on your
Oh,
show.
it's an honor, and I do. This is exactly what the show is all about. It's about being here for moms, not just in business, but moms in our mom life because it's a navigating lifestyle. So it's a big deal, and I love to share any inspiration, any expert advice, anything I can do. So let's get started and introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay. So I am a pelvic health physical therapist. I've been one for 30 plus years. I stopped counting at 30.
Yeah.
I've been doing it a while, guys.
Yeah.
And I have specialized in pregnancy and postpartum recovery for over probably 15 years now. And I discovered that and I've worked with thousands of moms now at this stage of the game. And I have discovered that the body doesn't always return to its original position. I'm sure most of you are familiar that your belly might not feel the same after having babies. And the big discovery that I had was that the bones of the pelvis don't always return to their original position after a baby comes out. And nobody in the medical profession is even has this on their radar. Like they're not looking at the pelvic bones
Yeah.
in the way that what needs to happen for birth and recognizing that, oh, they can get stuck in that position. And so I found that was the first discovery that I found is I mainly see in my practice, I only worked with postpartum women. And so most physical therapists see a little bit of this and that and everything, right? So they don't get to see these patterns that I discovered because I was only seeing postpartum women. And women would lay on my table and they'd have this rotation to the pelvis to the left. Be like, there it is, there it is, there it is. And I kept seeing it in every single client. And then I realized what was going on and was able to make some effective changes in their bony structure. And they would get off my table and no pain. Like they'd be in pain for months, seeing chiropractors, massage
Yeah.
therapists, having back pain, pelvic pain, even pain with intercourse and prolapse and all these issues that can happen after having a baby. And I was, especially with the pain, they were getting off my table and there's like, I'm good, I don't have pain anymore. And it was like, yes, because the bones are back in their original position, and then the muscles can function better and you feel stronger, you feel like you have your foundation back underneath you. And so I just started discovering all these different patterns in the postpartum body, and I figured out how to help those patterns, and moms were feeling better in one session.
Wow, that's
And
incredible.
it really was. And so I knew that I can't see every single mom out there. So I founded the Institute for Birth Healing in 2016, and I have been traveling the world teaching and educating other body workers in how to support recovery after birth and also how to prepare the body for birth. And so I've just, last 15 plus years, I have been really focused in on helping to support pregnancy so that moms can have a smoother labor and then also a faster recovery. And I am still, every day I am in the clinic, I am astounded at the amount of change I can get to happen in the pelvic floor muscles in one session. So, I always assess the pelvic floor. So I do intravaginal work for those not familiar with this, but I just use a gloved finger. I assess what the muscles can do with that gloved finger. And at the beginning of a session, it's kind of like the muscles are like, ugh, like,
Yeah.
trying to contract. And then at the end of the session, they're like, boing, strong. And moms can feel the massive differences in their strength in one session. And most traditional physical therapist, pelvic health physical therapists are not addressing the body in this way. And so I am doing my best to help spread this far and wide and train more people so that moms can get the good care that they need. I'm not saying that, any pelvic health physical therapist is bad. They're
Yeah.
just going to take a heck of a lot longer for you to get any results. Whereas the majority of the clients I see, it's less than 3 sessions, and my moms are back and functioning. And when you're a new mom, you don't have time
Yeah.
to be going to physical therapy for
Yeah.
6, 12 weeks, and you want to
Yeah.
get back to being a mom. And that's why I'm so passionate about getting this information out into the world, helping moms to understand that, this is a thing. And
Hmm.
if you are seeing a pelvic health physical therapist, encourage them to take my courses if they haven't already, because they will get much greater results with you in your session when they know this information. So it's just so important, Mary. Too
Yeah.
many moms are out there struggling, and doctors make you feel like, oh, well, you just had a baby. You got to just live with this.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you all, you don't. And for those of you that, don't have any issues going on, your body's great, please let your friends know about this information. It's really important that we spread this information far and wide so moms can get the help that they need. I do have a directory. We'll put the link in the show
Yes.
notes. It's on my website, so you guys can go look and see if there is a practitioner near you.
Yeah.
And, I just really, really want to make sure that moms get the support that they need. And there's so much we could do during pregnancy to
Hmm.
help set someone up so that that birth is smoother and then the recovery is faster for you too.
That is incredible. Man, you're so amazing. Thank you for doing this for moms because it's hard enough like
Yes.
dealing with the physicality of it and the mental part of postpartum is so hard on a new mom and just trying to figure it all out and to even get sleep and to have to deal with the
Right.
pain like because for me I was very blessed as I was kind of telling you a little bit. I don't really share a lot of my birth stories because some moms like probably hate me for it because I was very blessed. I bet it's funny when I was 18 years old and I lived at this place called the Holy Way. I'll never forget reading this book called Supernatural Childbirth. And I was so intrigued because it literally was telling stories of women through God's, blessings felt had a pain-free experience of giving childbirth. And I remember thinking, I want that. Like, I want that for me. And with my firstborn, yes, I felt the contractions and I hated it. I felt like I wanted to rip my stomach off and run, and it was horrible. And God knows me. He knows I do not tolerate pain very well. But the birth was great. He was out within 5 minutes. It was smooth in that area. But the aftermath, oh my gosh.
Mhm.
All the pain, all the like you said, your body being all weirded out and hurting all the time. I mean, even to this day, so I've had two more kids later on in life in my 30s, and now theirs was amazing. I did have the supernatural childbirth experience with them. I literally, even being induced when I went into the hospital, they were like, when they plugged me up, they're like, "Are you not feeling that?" And I'm like, "Feeling what?" And they're like, "You're having contractions right now." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, it blew my mind. It was so amazing. So apparently, I think the way the childs were, they were laying, they were hitting that, pressing on that nerve where I didn't feel the pain, thank God. So I was like, thank you, God. And of course I don't care. I still got the epidural. I'm not taking chances. I don't care. You call me a puss, but I don't care. I did not want to feel the pain, but you're right. The aftermath of the pain and when you're having to have a child and you're having to breastfeed and you're having to walk even just to go to the bathroom, it was like horrific. So what you're doing is absolutely incredible because I never knew that was even a thing.
Right, right. And most practitioners, even doctors, OBGYNs,
Yeah.
some midwives are a little bit more aware of this because they're more supportive of a physiologic birth.
Hmm.
That's a physiologic birth is where there's no interruption to it. There is no interventions. There aren't epidurals, okay? So a
Yeah.
physiologic birth is where, think of physiological birth as like having a bowel movement. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't go and drug ourselves up to have a bowel movement, right? So that is a physiologic process that happens in our body naturally. And birth is one of those same processes that can happen if we don't have those interventions. Now, most OBGYNs in a hospital setting have never experienced or witnessed a physiologic birth.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
Because when people go to the hospital, they are wanting the interventions. They are, like clients that come in to see me and there's like, yeah, I want a natural childbirth, but I'm going to go into the hospital. I'm like, okay, if that's your choice, you're going to have to fight to make that happen. Right? I mean, it is because they're just like, okay, let's do this now. Let's do this now. And you're
Yeah.
just like, no, stop. No, don't want it. Denied. Like, I mean, it is, you have to have your wall up
Yes.
to allow yourself to be able to have that experience if that's what you choose. If you are wanting a physiologic birth, I would encourage you to get a midwife. And then I would encourage you to either do a birth center or a home birth. And know that if you are choosing that and you're wanting a more natural, no epidural kind of,
Yeah.
I personally was too afraid. I was more afraid of the needle going in my spine,
Oh, yeah.
getting an epidural, than I was of the labor pains. And so a lot of people ask me, like, oh, Lynn, did you get into this work because you had horrific births and everything? And I say, no, I was blessed that my labors were 7 and 8 hours, start to finish. And I did get.
Did you know about like what you know now
No,
about
no, I
oh
didn't. I didn't
I bet
know.
you're
And
like,
that's how,
man.
oh my gosh, I wish I would have known that.
I know,
My
right?
my kids are 25 and 23 right now. And so I didn't get into this work, but it's interesting because after I had my first baby, I was so lit on fire about birth that I was like, I have to do this. Like I was like, do I need to become a midwife? Do I need to go back to med school? Do I need to become an OBGYN? Like I was really like so lit on fire that I needed to do this somehow, some way. And it really wasn't until 10 years later that I started to get into working with pregnant and postpartum women. And I found it interesting, like you go, you have your kid and then you go back and life happens. And I wasn't thinking about, going back into it, but it did light that fire in me. And now I am like, I'm so passionate about this work because a lot of the birth professionals out there, their main concern when you're pregnant, they're great at keeping mom alive and baby alive. And that's their focus. And they're aware of baby's head down, but they're not too concerned about the position of baby's head. So when I'm working with a pregnant client, I want to make sure that that baby's head is in the midline of the pelvis entering in because the baby's head could be heading into a hip. We call that an off-centered head.
Mhm.
The baby could be laying obliquely in your belly. And or they know when it's transverse, they know when they tend to know when it's breech.
Yeah.
And it kills me that we are not doing breech births. That is like considered, automatic C-section because a breech birth, it's crazy. If you guys ever look it up online, watch a video of breech birth, like a doctor who does it well, they don't do anything. They just watch and they know to keep their hands off the baby. It's crazy that they don't allow that to happen, but doctors have lost the skill of doing that. And there aren't that many providers who actually will deliver breech babies anymore. But there is a organization called Breech Without Borders, and they are training providers to do breech births. So it would be great if that were allowed back to be. Like
Yeah.
I have one doctor here in Denver area who has been delivering babies breech for 40 years. And he's like, it was back in the day, it was another variation of a normal birth.
Yeah.
And anyway,
Oh no, it
we
sounds
can make effective
yeah.
change to help baby get into the midline. The other thing is baby can have a high head, so the head is not engaging into the pelvis.
Mhm.
The baby is giving us information as to where you are having tension and restrictions in your tissues. So baby goes where there's space. So if that baby is not able to get its head straight down into the midline, there is some tension that you might be carrying. It could be in your rib cage, it can be in your lower abdomen, it can be in your pelvic floor muscles. And so these are all areas that you should have your body assessed and addressed prior to going into labor so that we get the baby into the most optimal position for it to be able to come on out. The reason that we have babies that are, labors that are 30 plus hours or 2 days of labor, prodromal labor, or things is that the baby is not in this great position in the belly. And you will notice that when you're carrying your baby, sometimes the baby's only on one side of your body.
Mhm.
That's tension. Your baby should be able to go on both sides of your body and be able to wiggle and move all around. But if it's only hanging out on one side of your belly, that's a sign that you've got tension. Our uterus is, the Macy's Day Parade and those balloons that they carry down
Yeah.
the road, right? They're floating and they've got all the
Yeah.
strings. People are hanging onto the strings, right? That's your uterus. The balloon is your uterus, and the strings are the ligaments of your uterus. And everybody's heard of the round ligament because they've heard of like that twing and twang and pain that sometimes happens when the round ligament gets stretched. And if you have a tight round ligament, they attach to the top of the uterus and come down and attach into your labia. So those are the front two strings of the balloon. And if one is tight, it's going to side bend your uterus. And so now your baby is going to be like curved to the side. And the fundus is going to be off centered from the baby's head. And so we want to release that so that the baby can get upright and be able to come on through. The uterosacral ligaments are pulling the inferior part of the uterus by the cervix, and it can twist it. It can pull it backwards because those uterosacral ligaments go from the back of the uterus to the sacrum or to the pelvis bones behind it. So if we have tension on one side, it's going to create this twist. And then the broad ligaments are the two strings on either side of the uterus, and they inhibit the side to side motion of the belly. So, one of the things that if you're pregnant, you could put your hands on either side of your belly and just push your baby as far to one side and push it far to the other side. And it should be even. It should move evenly side to side if your broad ligaments are okay. But if you only go half the distance one direction, then the other direction, that's telling you you have a tight broad ligament.
So, is there anything that if a mom were to, let's say they did that and they realize, oh, crap, I have a little bit of tension in here. Is there anything we can do, like at home or even in
Yes.
that moment, that could help to release that tension and
Yeah.
strengthen it?
So spinningbabies.com is a website that you can go to, and they recommend three balancing exercises that you should do
Okay.
every day. And one is an inversion, and that's where you're kneeling on your couch facing out, and you're in tall kneeling, and then you make your way down to your elbows on the floor, and you keep your chin tucked while your butt is in the air, and you do three breaths in that position. And what that does is it helps dangle the uterus and it helps to pull the baby out slightly out of the pelvis. So then when you do your three breaths, then you're going to come all the way back up to tall kneeling. And then that helps the baby reset back into the pelvis and it can help stretch out those uterine ligaments. Okay, so that's inversion is one thing that can help rebalance those uterine ligaments. I highly, highly recommend if you can to see a pelvic health practitioner, someone who knows how to work with the uterine ligaments, and that someone, if they've studied with me and taken my pregnancy course,
Hmm.
then they know how to do all this. And so I have a directory on my website. You guys can go check that out. But yes, spinningbabies.com is an excellent resource for pregnant people to be able to address issues in their body themselves. Okay, so one of the big things that I also want moms to understand for pregnancy is that you need to know, like, I've always wondered why are some births so quick, like yours and mine, and why are some extremely long and challenging? And it truly is what a person brings in their body to the birth, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. Like everything impacts birth. And so one of the big things on a physical level is what injuries has your body sustained throughout your life? Did you have a tailbone injury, a sledding accident, a fall on the ice? Were you an ice skater and fell a lot on your butt and your tailbone? Did you have an appendectomy? So this is like at any point, even as a little kid, if you had an appendectomy, that appendix sits on the right lower side of your belly. And when they take that out, it creates scar tissue, and that causes the uterus to get tight on that right side. So people who have had appendectomies, their babies tend to hang out more on that right side. And if the baby's off to the right side, then it's inhibited from being able to get into the best position to come on out.
Oh, wow. It's
So
funny. I have a cousin who had to have emergency C-section and she had that as a kid. So I can, oh wow. I wonder if that related into why she ended up having to do that because yeah, oh
yeah,
my
and
goodness.
see, doctors aren't putting this together. So they're
Yeah.
not aware of the impact of what we're bringing in our body to our birth. Okay,
Mhm.
so those are some of the mechanical things,
Mhm.
okay? But then we also have the emotional, energetic
Mhm.
blocks that can also impact your birth. And that is if you've been abused in any way in your lifetime, whether it's verbally, emotionally, sexually, sometimes we have an energetic block in our pelvic space and that block can prevent baby from coming on out. Okay. And babe might even avoid that space. So the baby's head might lay high. And see, doctors aren't, you're like, oh, yeah, your head's down, but they're not really comparing to see how far above, if this is your pubic bone and, the baby's head is 2 to 3 inches above the pubic bone and it's not dropping. Usually there's too much tension in the pelvic floor muscles. Or maybe you've been tucking your butt under.
Yeah.
So in pregnancy, a lot of mamas tuck their butt under and they just let their belly like fall forward. and that to end, they're sitting on their sacrum all night, all day long. That is pushing the sacrum and tailbone forward
Yeah.
where it needs to go backwards for birth. Okay, your
Ah.
tailbone needs to move away from the pubic bone for baby to come on out. So if you're constantly sitting on your tailbone and your sacrum and you're pushing it forward, you're going to make it a lot harder for
Yeah.
your baby to come through there. And if we have this tension and we have this trauma in that pelvic space, your baby's like, I ain't coming out that way. Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah.
There was a OBGYN who tells the story of a client of his who ended up having a C-section, a labored C-section. So she went into labor, baby never came out, had a C-section. And she went in and did this kind of journey and went inside her body and kind of looked and on an energetic level and like what was going on. And she saw a bunch of cobwebs and like in the pelvic space. And
Yeah.
she's like, oh, no wonder the baby didn't want to come out that way.
Exactly.
Right?
It's like, no, thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's great. And
So,
I think this is awesome because for me too, I think what you're talking about, like, I really tried to be mindful. I wasn't perfect, but I did try to be mindful too to stay active and even did like, yoga for pregnancy, things like that. And I even at 9 months pregnant, I was kayaking. So, I mean, I love to be out doing things because I feel like that's important, even just walking and moving around because I can imagine like because see, I had a desk job, so sitting down was a big part of my day, and I'm really even to this day now like I suffer with a lot of lower back pains and stuff like that because of I've done that. So I'm trying to be more mindful of moving and doing incline stuff and more throughout my day because it's sad to think about how actually more dangerous it can be for a woman or somebody who sits all day on a regular basis than those who are up on their feet.
yeah.
Yeah, I even heard like there's like somebody said something about how there's evidence, I guess, or whatever that they have or research that they've done where it shows that you actually can take off a good 3 years of your life if you have a sit down all day job and things like that. So I'm like, oh goodness.
I know. Yeah.
I'm
They
trying-
say that sitting is the new smoking
Right? Isn't that
for our
crazy?
health,
Yeah,
for our
yeah.
health.
And I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm only in my 30s and I'm already experiencing pains that I'm like my mom is even experiencing right now in her 50s and I'm like, "Oh my
Right.
goodness, I'm so young. I shouldn't be doing this." But it's like it's also going to show me like this is part of the consequences though. Like you got to take that seriously. You've got to take action.
Absolutely.
So it's like, but I also believe it's never too late. So I'm like, you know what? I'm doing what I can. I'm being more mindful of my body. I mean, honestly, it's been a beautiful journey because it's helping me to step more into this new like identity that I'm already working on anyways as an entrepreneur. So it's just matching that energy and it's also helping me to like I said just take my life and my health more serious and also role model for my kids. They're seeing me do yoga, they're seeing me do these things and they're joining me and it's really cute. I love it.
It's awesome. And that is so, so true, Mary,
Yeah.
that, how we are using our body
Yeah.
is going to impact that birth. And so I was talking about the
Yeah.
sitting and even the standing. If you're standing and you're tucking your pelvis under, you're
Yeah.
tightening your pelvic floor muscles to make that happen. And
Mhm.
that's going to impact the birth. So your pelvic floor muscles are a huge, huge, I call it a stoplight for birth.
Mhm.
And our pelvic floor muscles they react unconsciously. So have you ever found when you're whatever you're doing, and all of a sudden your shoulders are up by your ears? Like, and you're just like, why are my shoulders up by my
Yes,
ears?
it
Oh my
keeps
gosh, I
happening.
became aware of it.
Yeah.
And so now I'm going to drop my shoulders. Well,
Yeah.
the same thing can happen with our pelvic floor muscles. We can be tensioning, we can be tightening our pelvic floor muscles and not even realizing it. We could be, some people are butt clenchers. Okay. People who
Mm.
clench their butt all the time, they're also clenching their pelvic floor muscles. And if you are a butt clencher, that it's going to make it a lot harder for that baby to come through that pelvis because your muscles are so tight.
Yeah.
Okay. So I call the pelvic floor muscles the stoplight for birth. If we have red light tone in there, that means those muscles are so tight and they have zero give. That baby is not coming through.
Mm.
It can't
Yeah.
because the pelvic floor muscles need to lengthen and expand to
Yeah.
allow the bones of the pelvis to separate open for baby to come on out. If you have red light tone in there, it's closed, keeping everything closed on up.
Yeah.
If you have yellow light tone, it's just going to make it a little bit harder for babe to come on through. And then we want green light tone. Green light tone is that, like, think of a trampoline. You press down on it, it
Yes.
gives, it springs back. So we want trampoline-like tone in our pelvic floor muscles. And you can go in and take your thumb and press down on your pelvic floor muscles. If you think of the vaginal opening as a clock, from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock, that bottom half of the pelvis, if you put your thumb in, you're putting right at 6 o'clock, you're going to press down on your rectum. Don't do that. We're
Okay.
off to 7, 8 o'clock on the right side and 4 and 5 o'clock on the left side, and press down and see, do they give? Do they, when you press down, do they give and do they spring back up? The other most important piece for women to understand is how to push effectively. Too many people are tightening their pelvic floor when they go to push the baby on out.
Oh,
So you're trying to push the baby on out, but you're tightening the opening,
yeah.
and so it prolongs your pushing phase. It actually sets you up for a greater chance of tearing more. Okay? So one thing, if you're pregnant, please share this with your pregnant mamas. Lay on your side. Put your fingers on your anus, on your, not directly on the skin. You can do this through your clothes, but you want to put your fingers on your anus. And then I want you to practice pushing. And you should feel the anus bulging out into your hand so that it is lengthening as you push. If you feel it pull away from your hand, you're tightening. And it's imperative that you learn how to lengthen as you push so that you're more effective in allowing the baby to come through the pelvic canal to come
Yeah.
on out.
Mm.
Okay. And when I do this with my clients, and I always start on their back with their knees bent up because I do this intravaginally, but you don't need to have it done intravaginally. You can do it externally. But on your back with your knees bent up, which is the 95% of the positions that you're going to do in the hospital, nobody can get it. Very few people know how to push in that on your back position. Then I get them on side lying and they start to get it. And then I get them on hands and knees and then they really start to get it. And then I get them in tall kneeling. And tall kneeling, they really know how to do it because that's just like pooping.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who poops on their back?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody knows how to push out a poop on your back, which
Yeah.
is, labor and pushing out a baby is just like pooping.
Yeah.
So I encourage my mamas. I'm like, figure out what you do to try to get a poop out when you're constipated,
Yeah.
because that's what it's about for birth. Okay. So those are, I'm sure I could go on and on and on about pregnancy.
Mhm.
But now, oh, and then the other thing, there's a changing of our philosophy, a changing of our approach to pregnancy that I really want people to understand, and that is about your abdominal wall. So in pregnancy, most PTs, athletic trainers, personal trainers, they're going to just tell you, just hug your baby back towards your spine. Don't do any doming. Don't do any crunches or sit-ups or twists. You're going to make your diastasis worse. There's newer research out that's actually telling us that's not right. Okay. And that we actually want to keep the entire abdominal wall strong throughout pregnancy. So it is okay for you to do a crunch. It is okay for you to do twisting crunches and oblique work. It is okay to work on your transverse, work on it all. Keep the entire abdominal wall strong during pregnancy. We've been avoiding the doming because we're thinking that that's what's creating more separation of the abdominal muscles. But actually, by not doing that, we're making the recti muscles, which are the six pack muscles
Mhm.
that run down the front of your belly. And the separation, there's a linea alba that is a connective tissue that holds those two muscles together. That linea alba stretches out and the muscles, the recti muscles separate. And that's what we call diastasis recti, is if there's separation of those recti muscles. Well, that naturally happens in pregnancy to allow space for the uterus to expand. And really what it's come down, what we're understanding is that really it's all about genetics and how much collagen, how much stretchy collagen you have in your body, and whether you develop diastasis for the long term or not. So I'm going to give you information to help you to avoid long-term separation of your abdominal muscles by one, in pregnancy, keep your recti muscle strong, do some crunches. There comes a point when you are 36 and plus weeks of pregnancy that you cannot sit up. There's just a biomechanical disadvantage that
Oh, yeah.
doesn't make it happen, right? So don't worry about it then. But leading up to that, keep your recti muscle strong. They are the stabilizers for the rest of the abdominal wall, and we want to keep them strong. We have type 1 collagen and type 3 collagen in that linea alba and throughout our body, really. And type 1 is stiff, type 3 is stretchy. And during pregnancy, the linea alba, all the type 1s kind of go away and they become type 3. And so now we've got all the stretchiness to allow that linea alba to elongate.
Got
Okay.
it.
And people who are bendy, who are flexible, they tend to have more type 3 collagen in their tissues than type 1. People who are stiff, who, have to work at really stretching out their body, they have more type 1 in their system. And so during pregnancy, as the type 3 are expanding and allowing the tissues to stretch, then right after birth, and we don't know, you don't know how much type 1 versus 2 or 3 or type 3 that you have in your body. Like genetics, we don't know who's going to develop diastasis long term and who's not. But I do know that those people who tend to be stretchier, they tend to have more of a recoil ability for the tissues to
I
come
see.
back to its original position. Okay.
Oh,
And so, but here are some things that you can do after birth to help minimize any separation of that recti tissue. Okay. So during pregnancy, keep your entire abdominal wall strong. And I love this. A colleague of mine says, no other animal out in nature, once they get pregnant, goes, oh, wait, oh, stop. I shouldn't do that motion because I'm pregnant. you know and
absolutely
and
true.
so it's like, we're animals, guys. We shouldn't have to modify our activity level because we are pregnant. And so everyone's like, oh, but the doming's bad. No, the doming is just a change in the tissues. And it's not like we are living with the dome constantly. So the dome is just taking pressure. The muscles are coming together and that tissue is just doming out. Think of a curtain that you stretch across the window, it's flat. And then when you open it back up, it does those in and out involutions, right? That's what the doming is. Okay. So you standing up is putting constant pressure on that linea alba. When you go to dome, you're just putting a little bit of pressure for a short amount of time and then it goes away. That's okay. It's not like you're staying in a domed like position for hours on end. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so please, guys, let's be less afraid of the doming and let's keep your abdominal wall strong. Okay, then once baby is born, you
Mhm.
have about 8 weeks to help bring those muscles back together as close together as possible so that when the type 1 collagens, the stiff collagens, replace the stretchy threes, they're doing so in a very narrow position. Okay. And that's what's going to help pull and keep your muscles together. All right. So there is an oblique stretch that I teach my mamas,
Yeah.
and I believe I have that on my YouTube channel. I forget, but there's an oblique stretch that I like mamas to do that stretches that lateral wall so that we bring those recti muscles together towards the midline more. And
Mhm.
then you want to figure out, you put your fingers in the midline of your belly and you figure out what approximates those muscles the most together, and you start doing that. And most likely it's a crunch. Okay.
Yeah.
Crunch, maybe a crunch with a twist. You want to figure out what helps brings those muscles together again, and you hold it there. Some of you, if you've really stretched out, you may want to put a brace on to abdominal brace to help hold your belly in so that your tissues can narrow and the collagen gets laid down in a more narrow position. Because after 8 weeks, and we're not exactly sure, it's either 8 to 12 weeks, somewhere in that window, all the collagen threes are gone and the ones are back. So wherever your muscles are at that time frame, that's where they're going to be.
Okay. Oh goodness. That's
So
so
it's
huge to
very
know.
important that we just focus in on doing crunches and help approximating those muscles immediately after birth. Even
Okay.
if you've had a C-section, put an abdominal brace on and start doing crunches because they did not cut your muscles with a C-section. So you can be doing crunches if you've had a C-section as well.
Wow. Well, that is interesting to because it's so like some of these things I remember, like even like the crunches when you were pregnant. Like I just remember growing like being told, don't do crunches. Like that could
Exactly. I
lead
know.
to a million.
We have to change that narrative, and it's going to
Yeah.
take a while.
Yeah.
And I tell my moms that come in to see me, I go, everybody else is going to tell you not to do this. I'm here to tell you do it.
Yes, yes. I
Newer
mean,
research is
yeah,
showing us the importance of
love it.
keeping these recti muscles strong throughout your pregnancy. We want
Yeah.
them to be nice, thick ropes, not to wither away into mushiness.
Yes. Well,
Right?
and and that's so I think that's one of the hardest things that I see with moms is like their body image and how they feel
Yes.
about how they look after birth and stuff. And I can't imagine. Like it's to I wish I wish this would have been more available sooner, but because I'm sure there's a lot of moms like me listening right now like why can't I have known this?
Right,
But
right.
it's all good though because this is what we're all about. We're trying to spread it and help
Yeah,
those that are pregnant right now or who are going to be pregnant in the future. Like let's help them and help our kids in the future too as well. For those of us who have girls who may have kids someday or whatnot. But I think this message is so important and it's going to make such an impact for so many listening because I actually know a lot of women right now who are pregnant or who are trying to get
right.
pregnant. So it's like great to have this new information, new knowledge. By the way, you mentioned that do you only do in person with moms right now?
No, I do virtual as
You
well.
can do virtual.
I
Okay, that
do
is
virtual.
awesome to know. So
Yeah,
even if like just somebody's wanting to connect with you, learn and kind of do things that you can kind of guide them through certain things, that
absolutely.
is wonderful. Now, another thing I was curious about, you mentioned about asking like are you working with like OBGYNs like if like let's say a hospital hears about you and we were like someone refers them like listen this woman's got this amazing stuff she could teach you, that's something else we can do as far as helping to get the word out there? Do you do any of
I
that?
I don't I tend not to. I tend to educate more moms and get my clients from moms. I'm well known in my area for the work that I do, and
Yeah,
I get a lot of referrals from people, and people know that I do good work in my area. I
yeah.
don't really work with hospitals. I teach courses
Yeah.
to body workers.
Okay,
So
okay,
PTs, OTs that work in pelvic health and chiropractors and massage therapists and midwives,
okay.
they can all come and take my courses and learn how to do this work so
Oh,
that they can make these effective changes in people's bodies and help support that recovery afterwards as well.
yes.
So that's how I'm working. There is a whole nother enhanced recovery after delivery is another company, another colleague of mine who is working to get PTOT in the hospitals
Okay.
when moms have had babies and have OT and PT be seen, especially for those that have had C-sections.
Mm.
There's just, that is a major abdominal surgery. And if you go get a knee replacement or a hip replacement, you get PTOT twice a day until you leave the hospital. If you have gallbladder surgery, which is usually done laparoscopically, you get PTOT. But you don't get PTOT if you have a baby cut out of your belly and they go through all 7 layers and they stitch you up and you have to go home and
And
care for this, less than 10-pound baby.
yeah.
And they don't teach you how to get in and out of bed. They don't teach you how to, like, it's asinine that we are not giving PTOT to people who've had C-sections. So, mamas, if you have, in the hospital, you have had a C-section, ask for PTOT before you go home. So physical therapy, occupational therapy, they can help you learn how to get out of bed the best way. Because when you're in a hospital bed, you've got the railings, you can elevate it up so that you're sitting almost upright before you get up. When you go home, you don't have that. And so too many women are actually reopening their incisions because they don't know how to move correctly. And
Wow.
they're causing more problems with the way that they're trying to move. Whereas, one session, one visit from an OT, they can help you figure out, like, you've got a two-story house. Okay, how are you going to get upstairs? How, like,
Yeah.
let's help you figure out and plan. Occupational therapy does that. So it's so imperative that we get that skill and care. And so that's what enhanced recovery after delivery is trying to do, to educate more providers to be able to provide the care in the hospitals and work with the OBs and help them. It's just ridiculous that we're like, oh, baby comes out, you're good to
Yeah.
go.
Go home. I know.
And
Golly, I
then
know.
and none of the care goes to the mom. Like, everybody's just all concerned about baby, baby,
Baby,
baby,
baby,
baby,
baby.
baby, baby.
Hmm.
And mom can't even freaking walk.
I know.
Like, it's crazy. So
Yeah.
the other big piece that I want moms to understand is that not only does that tailbone lift backwards for a baby to come out vaginally, but your sit bones actually widen. And if babe's in a good position and you have a very smooth birth and you also have that more stretchy collagen in your body, your pelvis can come back to its original position, okay? And you don't have any problems or issues. But if that baby got stuck and the baby came through OP, occiput posterior, sunny side up, they call it, the larger part of the baby's head is coming through that pelvis. So your pelvis has to open up even wider than normal.
Mm.
And that's when things can get stuck. Also, if at any point in your birth you have a trauma response in your body goes, stop, don't want to do this anymore, time out. That trauma response can keep your pelvis stuck in what I coin the open birthing pattern of the pelvis.
Yeah.
So your bones can be stuck opened and then they're frozen because that's the freeze response from trauma, that it doesn't know that the baby's out. Your body doesn't know baby's out and the labor's over. Your
Yeah.
body's stuck in
That's
this
it.
open birthing pattern. And so these are all things that I just want moms to know. You're not broken, okay? So please don't think that, this is all stuff that is super relatively simple to help correct, but you got to get the work done, okay?
Yeah.
So there is an exercise that I want all moms after birth to do, and it's the closing the bones exercise. And you basically put one fist between your knees and you squeeze for 10 seconds. You squeeze your fist for 10 seconds and then relax. And then you put two fists between your knees and you squeeze for 10 seconds and then you relax. And then you put your elbow and your wrist between your knees and you're squeezing together and then you relax. And then you put your knees together and you put your hands on the outside of your knees and you try to open your knees, but your hands are keeping them from moving. So your knees are together when you push apart and you do that for 10 seconds. Then you move your knees to shoulder width apart and you're trying to force them open more, but your hands keep them still. And then you open up even wider and you push apart. So I have a video on YouTube. We can put the link in the show notes
Please.
and you can watch and see how to do that. If women did this right after birth, that helps to bring the bones back to their original position.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's incredible. Yes, please do share. I mean, this is awesome. You have so much. I mean, this is so impactful and so inspirational because it's nice to hear this because so many moms feel so alone. They feel
Yeah.
defeated. They feel like you say broken. They feel like it's like they'll never get themselves back. So it's like being able to spread this word and give them hope that no, it's okay.
Right.
You got this.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
can
Yes.
we can correct things,
There.
but we got to love on ourselves. So we got to put ourselves out there and find the support. So I'm excited to share this and to really help those. So anyone listening, if you know any moms who are trying to get pregnant or who are pregnant, please, please, please share this episode with them and help them get this access to these resources that are going to change the course of their experience. Because for those of some of you who've had really hard experiences, you understand. And we don't want that for anyone. We don't want that for anyone, especially when you don't have to have it that way, right? I mean,
Exactly. And unfortunately you go to your doctor and you're just like, well, pain or sex hurts now. Like,
oh,
and this is a topic I really want to cover real quickly, is that with pain with intercourse, there's insertional pain and there's deep thrusting pain, and sometimes you can have both. Insertional pain means that pelvic floor muscles aren't able to expand and they can't handle opening up. And that could be from scar tissue if you tore, you had an episiotomy during the delivery. Those two things can keep the muscles from being able to open up. Again, and also when your bones are in this open birthing pattern, they're putting everything on stretch. So think your muscles are now a tightrope instead of being, able to be like a trampoline and bounce and move and be able to expand. So bringing the bones back together, working with that scar tissue is all something that you could do. Try the closing the bones exercise, get in there with your fingers and massage that scar tissue and try to soften it. Scar tissue loves compression. So just kind of compressing that, you'll feel where it's bumpy and thicker than the other side, and just work on that tissue and try to soften it out. So that's insertional pain. Deep thrusting pain is an issue with your cervical mobility. So your cervix in your vagina needs to be like a piñata, and it needs to be able to move 360 and move up and down so that when the penis is thrusting, it can get out of the way. If the cervix is stuck in a position and the penis is hitting it and it can't move, that's what's creating your pain. Okay.
Oh,
And this happens a lot after C-sections. So
oh,
if you've had a C-section, it's super important that you massage your C-section scar. Again, I have a video on my YouTube channel. We'll put it in the show notes.
yeah.
But you need to massage your C-section scar so you avoid three issues. And one was that deep thrusting pain with intercourse. The other is that you may start peeing more frequently, like every 30 minutes, you feel like you got to go to the bathroom, even though you just went.
Yeah.
So that is your bladder's not happy and it can't expand because it's hitting scar tissue. So we need to free up that scar tissue so your bladder can expand more and hold more urine before you have to go again. And then the other is back pain. So if you've had a C-section that pulls on that uterus, because there's always one side tighter than the other, and the uterus gets pulled on that tighter side and it attaches into your sacrum, and then your sacrum can't move as freely as it needs to. And so that C-section scarring can cause back pain as well. And sometimes these three issues don't show up until 10 to 15 years down the road. By then, nobody's thinking about the C-section scar as being the culprit of your pain or problems. And so please massage your C-section scar. Go in and have a pelvic health therapist work on your C-section scar and help release that. And then your job is to keep it freed
Okay.
up for the rest of your life. We do not know how long scar tissue continues to form. So even down the road, you'll want to keep checking in with that tissue and making sure that it's mobile. And so all these issues, another big issue that happens postpartum is stress incontinence. If you had, and also there can be fecal incontinence too. If you've had a grade 3 or 4 tear, that means the tear went through or near the anal sphincter muscle. And I have to tell you guys, the anal sphincter muscle gets so stretched out with the way the baby comes through that I always find knots in that muscle. And
Mhm.
so if you work with someone who's studied with me, they know how to address the anal sphincter muscle. If they haven't studied with me, most pelvic health therapists don't work with the anus in the way that it needs to be worked with. And so just know that that is an issue. And the grade 3 and 4 tears can help keep that anus held open so it can't fully close. And that's when you get the leakage. You may feel like you constantly have to wipe because it's not closing off and you get clean. So those are all issues that can happen from grade 3, 4 tears. You must see a pelvic floor therapist if you have a grade 3, 4 tear, and hopefully work with someone that I've trained so they know how to work with your sphincter muscle. But stress incontinence, there's two issues going on with stress incontinence is one, the way the baby comes through that vaginal canal, we know if you have kiddos, you know that kids never put anything back where they belong. And the same goes with your pelvic organs. As you're coming through, that bladder can get pushed off to one side or the other as the baby's head is coming through. And when the bladder is off to one side, that can cause stress incontinence. And just helping to get the bladder back into midline can help your bladder function better. But the other issue that happens with stress incontinence is that the muscles of your abdomen, because they get so stretched out, but they don't get stretched out evenly. Your oblique muscles don't get as stretched out as your transverse abdominis muscle does. So if you go to cough and you put your hands, put one hand up by your rib cage, the other hand down low, and cough, if that lower hand is jutting out, there's more potential that you have more force going down on your bladder, and that could be causing your leakage. And that's why you leak when you laugh, cough, sneeze, jump, run, is because your lower belly is not drawing back up and in. So we need to learn how to bring our lower belly back up and in before we laugh, before we cough, so that it is taking the pressures away from the bladder and they're not getting hammered down.
Wow. Oh my goodness, Linda. You have shared so much like amazing stuff for moms right now. It is incredible. And I hope anyone listening will go and check out her YouTube channel, get connected with her, learn from her, and get that support. Like you say,
Yes.
we are all starting to even just talking about postpartum depression is become something I'm so proud to see moms talking about now and being open and vulnerable with because so many of us were ashamed or felt so alone or like we weren't allowed to talk or we didn't even know what was happening really. So I mean it's just really beautiful to see new stuff coming to light, new ways, hope, and us being braver and courageous to get out there and just be real. And I love,
Absolutely.
love, love, love that, Lynn. So thank you so much for everything you shared. I always open the floor to, is there any final piece of advice that you'd like to
Well,
share with the listeners today?
yeah, I do. I think it kind of ties into that postpartum depression too, is that I would really like for moms to be aware. Now, some people are very aware, yes, my birth was traumatic, but birth can be traumatic, everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that it's important. I kind of call it lower T and capital T trauma. There's lower T traumas that happen in birth where it didn't go the way you wanted it to go, or something happened that, is just really bugging you. Like that could be, there's a trauma response in the body. Now, capital T trauma, you were traumatized in your birth, okay? But that trauma gets stored in your tissues. And if you are, please go get support for that. I do believe trauma impacts a lot of postpartum depression. I do believe that there's a big link between the two. And
Wow.
I feel that,
So
helping to reprocess your birth and and do it in a way that empowers you is very, very healing for people. And I work with trauma, birth trauma all the time. And I love, 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 love helping moms to just kind of replay the birth in a way that it was more supportive to them.
yeah.
And but we have to do it from a body level and not just a mind level. So you
Mhm.
can't just think it through. You actually have to kind of feel in your
Yeah.
body the reprocessing it in a different way. And so know that that is available. Know that working with your trauma, the body, I talked about that freeze response for the open birthing pattern, but when you've been traumatized, it's fight, flight, or freeze, or a
Yeah.
complete collapse.
Yeah.
And in birth, you can't fight it and you can't flight from it.
Mm.
You
That's
have to go through it. And so your body goes into that freeze response. And there's a lot of times that I feel into the body and it's like the uterus doesn't even know that the baby is out. Like the
wow.
body, and to me, it's almost like there's another level of consciousness. Like your head knows that you're dealing with this baby and you're keeping it
Yes.
alive,
It's
but your body, your uterus doesn't know that that labor is over. And the trauma from your first birth may be inhibiting you from getting pregnant again. So there's secondary infertility where you've already had a baby, but now all of a sudden you can't get pregnant again. And I have helped several clients help them get pregnant right away.
oh
And
wow.
one gal came to see me. She went through 3 rounds of IVF and they all failed. And then I saw her in January of the next year after spending all year trying to get pregnant. She came in to see me. I put my hands on her uterus and my body just cringed because it was just so full of trauma from her first birth. And we worked and we replayed that birth and we reprocessed it and we got the uterus to know that the baby was out, that that labor was over. And it was so much happier in there. And when she left, I said, okay, good luck getting pregnant. She turned around and looked at me like I had three heads, and she got pregnant that next month.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that is incredible. I actually know someone right now who's like really going through that struggle of getting pregnant again, and she's doing the IVF, and it breaks my heart because she's getting these disappointed
Right.
not
Yeah.
pregnant. So, oh my God, I may have to send her your way
Yeah.
because
So think about it though. If the
yeah,
uterus is stuck and traumatized and still thinks it's birthing a baby,
it's so
how can it get pregnant again?
wow, but I didn't even know that that's right there. I mean, how do you even know that that's what's going on? Like, you don't even think you think
Don't
because of course,
know.
you know, it's
Yeah.
easy as a woman, as a mom to be like, it's what's wrong with me? Like, it's me, it's
Right.
me, it's me.
Right.
But even
Yeah.
that stress of wanting to get pregnant, you
Yeah.
hinder yourself sometimes because you're placing too much attachment to the outcome. And so I've learned a lot about that and releasing and trusting. I mean, honestly, when me and my husband tried this final time, I know that I prevented myself from getting pregnant because I think deep down I realized I didn't really want to get pregnant again. And so it's like
Yeah.
I realized
Yeah.
because with my other two, I got pregnant the first try. I had
Yep.
no problem. I was ready for it. I wanted it. I
Yep.
allowed my body to receive it.
Yeah.
But this time it's like funny how like we did struggle. And honestly, deep down, looking back, I'm like, I think it's because deep down I knew that I'm good. Because
Yeah.
I think that's another thing too with pregnancy and stuff, with everyone being about the baby. It's like we forget about the moms and how we feel and what we're going through and that we matter too. And we get so
Yes.
lost in having to take care of everyone else that we forget about ourselves. So even just taking care of ourselves. I mean, I went so many times just having to remember to even eat, and to just do the
No.
little things for
Yeah.
myself. And it's like, that's why we get burnt out. That's why we end up getting depressed. That's why we end up, getting short with our kids and snappy and whatever. It's because we're not thinking about us. And that's why
Right.
I'm here
Right.
doing what I'm doing because that changed everything for me. And I'm seeing it in the ripple effect is how it's affecting my family, our relationship, how they are thinking about themselves, my mom. It's like I'm seeing all this, and it's also great to get to
Awesome.
show up like this. And that's why
Yes.
I'm just excited to share
And
this message right here.
one of the other things, that open birthing pattern where the pelvis is still open and, energetically, there's no containment of your energy.
Mm.
And so you are just your energy is flowing out and you can't contain it for yourself. So there's a lot from the birth that may be impacting you in these subtle ways that you're not aware of.
Mm, yes, and awareness is key. If
It
you're unaware,
is.
you really can't make change. So I think that's incredible. I'm so excited to share this, Lynn. Thank you again so
Thank
much
you.
for everything you shared and for everything you're doing for moms around the world. Like I'm so excited. I can't wait to see it grow and to see the reach that you get from everything you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I just want to let people know if you are interested in having a session, a virtual session, or if you're in the Colorado area and you can get to me, I'm in Longmont, Colorado, just outside of Boulder. And my clinical site is centerforbirthhealing.com. We'll put that in the show notes too. But
Yes.
my educational platform is the Institute for Birth Healing, and then my clinical practice is Center for Birth Healing. So
Oh, I love
there's two
that.
different things.
Yes, go check her out. And please, again, share this with any moms out there that you know need to hear this because this is, like I said, awareness. This starts with the awareness and then let them have that option to know that that's available for them to get the support that they deserve. So, again, Lynn, thank you so much for being part of this show, my podcast journey.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks so much for having me.
What an amazing conversation with Lynn. Here are some key takeaways that I know will really resonate with you, Mama. Your body can heal. Many moms don't realize that pelvic pain, incontinence, and postpartum discomfort are not normal and they are absolutely fixable. Awareness is the first step. Understanding what's really happening in your pelvic alignment can empower you to take action and heal more fully. Release birth trauma. Emotional healing from childbirth is just as important as the physical recovery. They're deeply connected. You can start at home. Simple at-home exercises and awareness practices can help rebuild strength, confidence, and connection to your body. Every mom deserves healing. Pelvic floor therapy isn't just about recovery, it's about reclaiming your confidence, energy, and joy. If you want to learn more about Lynn, make sure to check out her links in the show notes. She's truly changing the way moms experience postpartum healing. And mama, if this episode resonated with you and you're ready to learn what's really holding you back from confidence and financial freedom, I've got something exciting for you, my brand new quiz. What's secretly holding you back from confidence and financial freedom as a mom is officially live. In just a few minutes, you'll discover your radiant wealth archetype and unlock the next steps to creating the confidence, freedom, and fulfillment you've been craving. Plus, you'll get a personalized podcast playlist curated just for your result to help you start shifting immediately. Take the quiz now at marydibblecoaching.com/quiz or click the link in the show notes. It's quick, fun, and eye-opening. And before I let you go, I'm so excited to share that I'll be speaking at not one, but two incredible summits on November 14th. The Superhuman Summit for just $39, you'll gain lifetime access to 36 empowering experts who will help you tap into your superpowers and rise stronger than ever. And the Everyday Woman Summit. It's completely free and packed with real stories, raw conversations, and powerful inspiration you won't want to miss. You can find all the links in the show notes. Don't wait to sign up, mama, because these events will absolutely light you up. If you love this episode, please subscribe, share it with another mom who needs this message, and leave a quick review. It truly helps this podcast reach more amazing moms just like you. Until next time, Radiant Mama, keep shining, keep believing, and remember, your healing is your superpower. Much love.